I woke before dawn, the city outside my apartment window still a charcoal silhouette, but the humiliation inside my chest already glowed like an ember. Yesterday, under the icy brightness of conference room LEDs, a roomful of colleagues watched me cry. The verdict from HR arrived minutes later on crisp letterhead. I was, quote, too sensitive for leadership consideration. It felt less like feedback and more like exile. The words kept echoing, too sensitive, while I lay staring at the cracked paint above my bed, replaying every flicker of disdain on the regional director's face. Marcus Steele hadn't merely dismissed my analysis, he'd savored the moment my voice wavered, feeding on it the way some people linger over dessert. And the smirks around the table, people I once mentored, sealed the memory in salt. So, while the rest of Boston slept, I brewed coffee strong enough to jolt the ghosts from my mind and opened my laptop. If you've ever experienced something like this, please hit like and subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. My name is Sophie Harland, I'm 29, and from the moment I could count seashell spirals on Revere Beach I believed numbers were neutral. My father, Dr. Elliot Harland, plankton taxonomist and compulsive tide chart doodler, taught me that data never lies, only people do. My mother Marielle, a restorer of antique harpsichords whose fingers smelled of cedar oil, showed me that even precision can sing. Between them, I grew fluent in two dialects, measurement and melody. In our duplex the walls were lined with dusty field notebooks and warped sheet music. Dinner was a symposium, Dad describing diatom blooms while Mom rapped J.S. Bach's chromatic fantasy on the table with a fork. I learned early that patterns were stories waiting for the right narrator. That conviction carried me through a scholarship at Northeastern, a string of hackathons, and finally a coveted analyst seat at Everhall Consulting, a firm whose glossy brochures promised insight distilled. For 3 steady years, I converted purchase histories into narratives executives could swallow between golf rounds. Promotions dripped slow but steady. Then, like a thunderclap in a museum, Marcus Steele arrived. Recruited from a rival to disrupt complacency, he wore bone-gray suits and a perpetual half-smile, as though every room was 2 jokes behind him. On day 2 he rechristened our Insight Lab the Growth Anvil, because nothing sharpens without hammering. I met him formally during the scramble before Q3 reviews. Our flagship client, Quay Market Grocers, had posted flat growth. Panic welded us to our desks. I dove into 6 weekends of feverish modeling, overlaying loyalty card patterns with NOAA weather feeds, then cross-referencing coffee shop footfall scraped from public Wi-Fi sensors. The result, a predictive micro-inventory algorithm, promised a 6% revenue bump. Presentation day, 20 executives, 1 narrow boardroom, and the scent of $400 cologne. 10 minutes in, Marcus started circling my slides like a hawk. Correlation, not causation, he clipped. Your cohort window's too narrow. Tell me why the board should trust you. I answered each jab with data, but my throat tightened, heat flooded my cheeks. When he slammed the final printout and called my model fluff dressed up as insight, a tremor betrayed me. Tears glazed my lashes. A soft gasp rippled around the table, half sympathy, half thrill. That shimmer of weakness was the only proof Marcus needed. HR summoned me by noon. Fluorescent cubicle, box of tissues, form letter already drafted. Emotional display disruptive to team cohesion. Sign here. I nodded like a marionette. Outside, Slack lit up, did you hear? Sophie's too sensitive. The phrase metastasized in threads, an inside joke delivered with animated GIFs. If this part hit you hard, leave a comment and tell me what you would have done. For 2 months I shrank into data like a hermit crab, surfacing only to breathe. But inside that shell, something crystalline grew, a resolve as sharp as sea glass. I spent nights in borrowed conference rooms, devouring MOOCs on private equity structuring, M&A tax shields, and the fine art of golden parachute clauses. Sensitivity, I realized, is just a sensor calibrated finer than the blunt instruments around it. And mine had detected a hairline fracture in Everhall's foundations. A blizzard Tuesday in January, An old econometrics professor forwarded a rumor, Nova Bridge Capital, a discreet PE firm famous for swallowing mid-sized consultancies, had started sniffing around Everhall. I pulled every SEC filing Nova Bridge had ever coughed up. The pattern was music. They bought companies with undervalued IP, demoralized talent, and bullying leadership, then flipped them post-rehab. Everhall was a perfect chord. I built a 97-slide dossier that weekend, valuation waterfalls, cultural risk matrices, and an appendix titled Proprietary Algorithms at Risk of Flight. At the heart was my micro-inventory model, dubbed Kestrel, plus a quietly scathing profile of Marcus's management style as a liability. Sunday night, I cold-emailed Aisha Rowan, Nova Bridge Senior VP of Strategic Acquisitions, value hidden in plain report. Attachment, dossier.pdf. Her reply came in 22 minutes, NYC. Monday. 0900. The Amtrak to Penn Station rattled like a confession booth on rails. I rehearsed elevator pitches between cars, palms damp against the seatback. Aisha greeted me in a glass cube overlooking the Hudson, handshake firm enough to reroute blood. You built Kestrel? Yes. And you're still classified as junior? Yes. Let's fix that. Over the next 6 clandestine weeks, I became a ghost at Everhall, present in body, gone in allegiance. I funneled anonymized culture audits to Aisha, traced Marcus's expense reports, and mapped severable divisions. All edited in encrypted midnight sessions. Sensitivity morphed into sonar, every office whisper became data. On March 14th, Everhall's CEO called an all-hands at 10 a.m. The auditorium brimmed with lukewarm applause as he announced Nova Bridge's controlling stake. Spotlights caught Marcus's jaw clenching like a vice. Memos followed at noon detailing the post-merger org chart. My email dinged, Director of Strategic Insight, EMI, reporting directly to Aisha. Marcus would now report to me. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you've ever felt underestimated. Marcus booked a quick sync before day's end. 12th floor lounge, skyline backlit in apricot haze. He arrived 10 minutes early, pacing like a caged wolf. Congratulations, he began, the word tasting foreign on his tongue. Thank you, I said, sliding into a chair with the calm of someone who spent weeks simulating this encounter. So, he cleared his throat, how do you envision my role within your framework? You'll oversee tactical rollout of methodologies developed by my analytics pods, I replied. He gave a brittle laugh. Executing your ideas, in other words. Executing them well, I corrected. Something in his eyes faltered, like a crown realizing it had become a helmet. Silence pooled. I almost pitied him, but sensitivity doesn't equal softness, it equals fidelity to truth. Over the next quarter I rewired the anvil, now restored to the Insight Lab, into a hybrid think tank. Quant savants paired with ethnographers, code merged with campfire storytelling. We piloted omni-channel prediction for Quay Market and clawed back 8 points of churn. I instituted bi-weekly empathy workshops, mandatory for leadership. Marcus attended, shoulders stiff, but by May he was offering critiques that sliced data, not people. One humid June morning I found a post-it on my monitor, your Bayesian uplift saved Northland. I misjudged you. I pressed it into my notebook, artifact, not trophy. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from if this felt familiar. Flashback, I'm 6, Revere Beach, October sky pewter. I've constructed an elaborate sand labyrinth with tidal drain canals. A bigger boy crashes through it, laughing. Tears well. Dad crouches, brushes grains from my hands. Sensitive is good, he murmurs. It means the world gets printed on you in higher resolution. Use it. That memory returned the night before our first post-merger review summit. I watched city lights ripple on the Charles and realized I hadn't simply climbed a ladder, I'd inverted it, hammered new rungs into place. Sensitivity had been my schematic all along. If this story moved you, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Year 2, the rebellion of quiet power. The honeymoon glow of acquisition faded. Nova Bridge expected acceleration. We set an audacious target: transform Everhall from boutique consultancy into data-driven venture studio within 18 months. My team ballooned from 6 analysts to 42 researchers, poets, and behavioral economists. I requisitioned a disused top-floor cafeteria, knocking down walls until sunlight poured over whiteboards like revelation. Marcus's transition was rocky. His old guard whispered that I was weaponizing compassion, a phrase that made me smile. During one heated roadmap session he snapped, "Not every number needs a bedtime story, Sophie." I closed my laptop, let silence thicken, then said, "Actually, every number is a story. We only choose whether to tell it truthfully or not." The room stilled, something recalibrated. Marcus exhaled. "Then let's tell it right," he conceded. We built Project Mariner, a machine learning engine fed by anonymized shopper biometrics and real-time shelf cameras. Ethics critics circled like gulls, so I commissioned an external audit, published the findings unredacted, and invited them to monthly town halls. Transparency became armor. Quay Market piloted Mariner in 12 stores, stockouts dropped by 40%, wastage by 22%. One rain-polished evening, CEO Lawrence Finnegan called to personally thank me. "You turned sensitivity into shareholder value," he chuckled. I stared at my reflection in the office window, mascara smudged, hair in a knot, and whispered, "That's not the half of it." Year 3, the echo of empathy. Success breeds scrutiny. A rival consultancy leaked a memo branding Everhall run by feelings, not facts. Nova Bridge's board twitched. I gathered leadership in the atrium, Marcus included, and played the rival's leaked audio over loudspeakers. Then I rolled out a 24-month longitudinal study correlating empathy-driven design with profit growth across 53 clients. The evidence roared louder than any smear. Stocks jumped 7 points. During a celebratory off-site, Marcus approached me at the buffet, plate of wilted salad in hand. "I used to think sensitivity was a liability," he admitted, gaze tracking the roomful of laughing analysts. "Now I wonder if it's a kind of superpower." "It's a tuning fork," I said. "You just have to press it against the right beam." Months blurred into strategy sprints, product launches, red-eye flights. Yet every quarter I blocked one Friday to volunteer at Girls Who Code in Roxbury. I'd wheel in sticky note packs and tell middle schoolers about the day a boardroom labeled me fragile. Their faces, equal parts fury and delight, reminded me why victory must echo beyond spreadsheet milestones. One December afternoon, snow swirling like confetti, Marcus burst into my office holding a glossy magazine, Harvard Business Review, feature, The ROI of Sensitivity. My photo stretched across 2 pages, headline blazing. He placed it on my desk, tapped the caption, and without irony said, "I'm proud to report to you." I thought about the HR letter, the slam of a deck on oak, the sour taste of tears. Then I flashed him the smallest, sincerest smile. "Thank you," I said. As I record this chapter, 3 years since that humiliating day, Everhall Insight Lab operates on 3 continents, mentors 500 students a year, and measures success not only in margins but in morale metrics visible on public dashboards. Marcus now leads our internal critique with grace workshops. He opens each session quoting Brené Brown. "If you knew him before, you'd call it science fiction." People still label me sensitive. I accept it with the same ease I accept oxygen. Sensitivity is not weakness, it is resolution. It's the ability to feel the sub-basement tremor before the quake, to glimpse the fractal in chaos. When I'm asked how I climbed from too emotional to the seat 2 rungs above my ex-bosses, I say, I didn't climb a ladder. I rewired the building. And if anyone scoffs, I remember the post-it, the January blizzard, the Amtrak confession booth. I remember that quiet plans, executed precisely, reverberate louder than any table slap. Then I get back to work, because somewhere a young analyst is blinking back tears in fluorescent light, and she needs new architecture to climb. Drop a comment telling me the power you once mistook for a flaw. I read every one. And of course, hit like, subscribe, and share this story with someone called too much. They might be on the cusp of becoming someone's boss's boss, too. My story, though, didn't end there. Power never stays still, and neither did the tremor beneath Everhall's polished floors. Barely a quarter after that Harvard Business Review spread, Nova Bridge announced its next play, spin us off into a semi-autonomous tech incubator while floating 20% of equity on the Nasdaq. The news hit like a champagne cork ricocheting off a chandelier, dazzling, dangerous, and loud. Investors cheered, employees panicked, regulators sniffed for antitrust angles. And smack in the center of the maelstrom they positioned me as interim president of Everhall Insight Ventures, tasked with shepherding a public listing in under 12 months. I'd spent my childhood recalibrating aquarium pH strips, now I was steadying a rocket on the launch pad. Marcus approached me the evening the press release dropped, his reflection caught in the glass wall of my office like a ghost from a softer timeline. "You ready for Wall Street?" he asked. "Readier than I was for your growth anvil," I said, half teasing, half truth. He grimaced, but the lines around his eyes crinkled in respect. "Then let's raise a forge they can't dent." What followed was the longest year of my life, 12 months carved into 180-hour workweeks, midnight stakeholder calls, and 6 a.m. espresso shots so bitter they tasted like punishment. I built a war room on the 15th floor, commandeering every whiteboard until they looked like the inside of a mathematician's fever dream. Sensitivity became my perimeter alarm. I could feel morale dip before metrics proved it, feel tension spool in a throat before a voice cracked. Every Friday I walked the corridors, stopping at cubicles to ask about unfinished capstone projects or sick parents in Toledo. Those detours took hours, but attrition stayed the lowest in the industry. Our bankers called it cost-effective sentiment retention. I called it noticing when someone's shoulders sagged. One over-air-conditioned night in June, my phone pinged with a text from Mom, "Stopping in Boston tomorrow, lunch?" I'd nearly forgotten the world outside S1 filings. We met at a hole-in-the-wall Malaysian place that smelled like cardamom and seawind. She peered at the circles under my eyes the way she inspected century-old soundboards. "Have you played lately?" she asked. "Played?" "The piano." I laughed, harsh, surprised. "Mom, I'm about to take a company public." "Exactly," she said, sipping tea. "Your chords are out of tune." That night I dug through storage until I found the battered keyboard I'd hauled from dorm to apartment. I played Bach's Prelude in C. The keys felt alien, then familiar, then like intravenous calm. Tears slipped before I noticed. The next morning I installed a grand piano in the open atrium and scheduled weekly lunchtime recitals. Any employee could sign up. By Q2 earnings, clients timed visits to hear analysts improvise jazz over sandwich crumbs. CNBC called it the most melodic due diligence lounge on the eastern seaboard. If this part hit you hard, leave a comment and tell me how you protect your own harmony in the grind. September brought scrutiny with teeth. A short seller blog accused us of sensitivity theater, claiming our empathy metrics were window dressing for algorithms that preyed on consumer impulse. Shares in peer consultancies dipped on the rumor, and Nova Bridge's board demanded immediate damage control. I convened a live-streamed town hall, opening the floor to the harshest critics. For 3 hours I answered questions about data provenance, bias mitigation, mental health stipends. I even disclosed my original HR reprimand, holding it up like an old scar under good light. Viewership peaked at 2.4 million streams. The short seller retracted its thesis within 48 hours. Our pre-IPO book built oversubscribed by 3 times. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you've ever battled mudslingers who couldn't stick their dirt to you. The night before the IPO roadshow kicked off in San Francisco, Marcus and I walked the Embarcadero waterfront, salt stinging the fog. "You still nervous?" he asked. "I'm vibrating," I admitted. "But not afraid." He paused under a street lamp. You know, Sophie, the day you cried, that was the first honest moment I'd seen in that firm. I swallowed. It felt like drowning. And it taught me the difference between impact and force, he said. Force shoves. Impact lasts. I felt the Pacific wind whip my hair and wondered how many hidden apologies live inside men who once weaponized volume. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from if you've witnessed a bully recalibrate. Roadshow week was a blur of leather chairs, mineral water, and questions designed to bruise. What happens when growth plateaus? Why should a soft skills firm deserve a hard valuation? I countered with case studies, live dashboards, and one unlikely prop, a crystal wine glass. I struck its rim with a tuning fork, letting the note hum through the room. This, I told hedge fund titans, is what we do. We resonate. And resonance scales further than any hammer strike. Silence cracked into applause. One portfolio manager told me later he'd upped his order on that note alone. If this story moved you, hit that like button and share it with someone told their kindness was off-brand. IPO day, April 17th, 10:43 a.m. The opening bell clanged, our ticker, EIV, flashed green then erupted, up 37% in minutes. Confetti cannons misfired, someone's latte dropped on the NYSE marble. Cameras captured my stunned face, the girl once chided for tears now worth more, on paper, than the director who belittled her. Yet behind the roar I heard my heartbeat sink with a quieter sound, possibility unfurling its wings. That afternoon I slipped away to a serene stairwell and left Marcus a voicemail. We did it, I said. Now let's prove we deserved it. Then I called Dad by the ocean. His voice cracked with pride, gulls cried in the background like punctuation. We closed the day at $62.14 a share. That evening, champagne flowed over rooftop railings, but I toasted with sparkling water, buzzed on adrenaline alone. I looked around at my team, lit by fairy string bulbs, and realized nobody was flinching from anyone's volume. Empathy had rewritten the atmosphere. Year 4 as a public company brought its own tempests, cyber espionage attempts, a data copyright lawsuit, we won on fair use grounds, and a macro downturn that shaved budgets to the bone. I responded by launching Project Lighthouse, offering pro bono analytics to non-profit food banks to optimize distribution. Media outlets dubbed it capitalism with a conscience, sarcasm dripping, but the program diverted surplus groceries to 1.2 million families. When the market rebounded, the goodwill translated into the best new business quarter in our history. One analyst told the Wall Street Journal, "They're not selling feelings, they're engineering dignity." I printed that line and taped it to my childhood bedroom wall beside old Tide charts and music staves. If you've ever seen compassion turn into a competitive edge, leave a comment below. Flash forward, 5 years after the HR debacle, Everhall Insight Ventures ranks in the Fortune 100. Our annual developer summit features a piano concerto coded in Python to convert sensor data into live melody. And every new hire orientation begins with a reading of my HR letter, because origin myths matter. Marcus now leads global learning and development. At last year's retreat he quoted Maya Angelou to a room of skeptical CFOs, voice steady, no irony. When he finished, applause burst so loud I felt the floor vibrate. Mom watches live streams of my keynotes, texting me critiques on pedal phrasing. Dad retired early to co-author a paper on plankton acoustics. He claims tiny shells resonate like cathedral bells if you listen close enough. Sensitivity truly runs in the family. And me? I'm still counting patterns, still tasting the air for emotional tremors, still playing that grand piano at lunch on Fridays. The keys remind me data can sing, the sustain pedal reminds me some notes deserve to linger. If you stayed to the end, tell me in the comments, what label did they slap on you that turned out to be rocket fuel? I'll be reading from the atrium, fingertips dusted with chalk and melody. Flash forward again, year 6 post-IPO, and I've learned that growth curves aren't elegant parabolas, they're storm-blown coastlines. One February morning, while snow needled the Boston skyline, I opened an envelope marked confidential, shareholder action. An activist fund, ironically named Titan North, had amassed a 7% stake and was demanding we pivot away from costly culture initiatives to boost quarterly EBITDA by 80 basis points. Translation: fire the empathy, keep the margins. For 3 sleepless nights I paced my apartment, replaying their white paper, data-heavy, heart-empty, dripping contempt for excessive people programs. The kid in me, that seashore mathematician, felt the tide pull. But the adult, forged from fluorescence and tears, recognized a pattern. They'd underestimated sensitivity's bite. I scheduled a full company live stream. Nearly 9,000 employees tuned in, chat scroll racing. I laid Titan's demands bare, slide by clinical slide, then spoke plainly. Cutting our conscience for short-term optics is like setting fire to a lighthouse because the glow costs electricity. Silence hugged the bandwidth, then emojis exploded, applause, heart, lighthouse icons. Within hours, #WeAreTheLight trended on internal comms. Analysts debated whether I'd committed corporate harikari or authored a masterclass in stakeholder judo. If this part hit you hard, leave a comment and tell me how you'd answer a Titan in your life. The real chessboard unfolded in boardrooms from Boston to Zurich. Titan pushed for 3 board seats. Nova Bridge, still majority, countered with 2 compromise nominees, but wanted me to trim non-essential programs as olive branch. That night I practiced Bach's Goldberg variations until my wrists ached, each aria reminding me nuance can outlast brute repetition. I flew to Zurich alone, no entourage, no scripted talking points, just a portable projector and a briefcase of raw metrics. Titan's representatives expected bravado. Instead, I offered vulnerability sealed in numbers, retention curves, mental health ROI, client lifetime value correlated with staff empathy scores. Midway, I paused on a slide of Marcus leading a workshop, the same man once proud of splintering egos. I told them, this graph is his transformation. The cost? 2 days of training and 1 honest apology. The return? A $12 million upsell he led the very next quarter. One director cleared his throat, respect or surrender, I couldn't tell. When the vote closed, Titan secured 1 seat, not 3, and signed a memorandum supporting our culture initiatives so long as we met revised, but fair, growth targets. Compromise? Yes. Capitulation? No. I walked out into a drizzle that smelled like electricity on wet stone, knowing empathy had drawn another circle on the map. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you've ever defended what truly matters under fluorescent fire. By year 8, Everhall Insight Ventures had sprouted satellites in Nairobi, Sao Paulo, and Reykjavik, each office designed around a public piano, because resonance travels. Quarterly hackathons paired coders with poets to solve municipal problems. Traffic flow in Accra, salmon migration in Iceland. Harvard Business Review called us the first consultancy whose board minutes read like hybrid memoir/code commentaries. Yet leadership, real leadership, means knowing when to step sideways so others can ascend. One autumn afternoon, watching a Ghanaian intern named Alma sculpt a predictive model that shimmered with artistry, I felt the tectonic shift. The company no longer needed me at its helm to breathe empathy. It was in the drywall, the APIs, the coffee mugs. So I drafted a succession plan. Marcus, now a living testament to change, would become COO. Amma, barely 23, took over Mariner's next-gen layer. And I wrote a letter to the board proposing a new role, Chief Resonance Officer, guardian of culture across all ventures and future spin-offs. Less P&L, more pulse. When the announcement went public, headlines puzzled over the title. Commentators called it symbolic fluff. But inside Everhall, cheers thundered. My first act, endow a fellowship funding data literacy boot camps in underserved coastal towns, because childhood tides shape grown footprints. If this story moved you, hit that like button and share it with someone whose quiet power deserves a megaphone. Resolution, though stories rarely end cleanly. Today, exactly a decade after fluorescent lights caught my tears, I stand on Revere Beach at dawn, laptop closed, sand cool beneath my shoes. The company streams our annual summit worldwide, but I'm here listening to gulls sink with small waves, reminding myself that patterns start in whispers. I reach into my coat pocket and touch two objects, the old HR reprimand, now soft around the edges, and Marcus's post-it. I keep them as twin fossils, proof that impact can sprout from fracture. A message buzzes on my phone, Amma reporting her Nairobi team's pilot cut food distribution waste another 15%. I laugh out loud, the ocean answers. People still label me sensitive. I accept the word the way sailors accept wind direction, neither insult nor compliment, just navigation. Sensitivity tuned me to boardroom oxygen levels, merger heartbeats, and the symphony hidden in spreadsheet cells. It carried me from too emotional for leadership to architect of a firm where emotion is data and data is melody. So tell me, yes, you out there, what trait in you once felt like a bruise but turned into iron? Drop it in the comments, I'll read every one, piano keys still warm beneath my fingers. And of course, don't forget to like, subscribe, and forward this narrative to someone staring at their own HR letter tonight. Remind them, tears can be alchemy, and the quietest resonance can reorder skyscrapers.